You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Today, we're still talking about Seattle parks because our Seattle City leadership, they're doing their standard thing, which is nothing. People are getting really riled up about the parks being open. The kids' playgrounds have just recently been opened based on the data and the science. But now we can't use them because at the bottom of the slide, we got a bunch of hypodermic needles. That's what's going on in Seattle, and nothing is being done about it. We're talking about it. We're re-envisioning it. We're imagining Seattle parks being able to be used. But in the meantime, nothing's going on. That's what we're going to talk about today. But I have people reach out to me all the time and say, hey, with all this crazy stuff going on in Seattle, what is happening to your property values? They must just be tanking. And the weird reality is in the midst of a pandemic, Seattle property values are skyrocketing. They are going through the roof. So what I deal with, and right before I started this podcast, I was dealing with a series of emails, and I'll kind of read to you what I work with every day. And this is what my brokers are working with. It's such a competitive marketplace that it's multiple offers, it's acceleration clauses, it is waive all your contingencies, basically meaning your buyers are stripped of anything that would ensure that they get a fair deal on the home. They don't know what they're getting. And this is in order to just get a home. And it's not necessarily a fancy or special home. This is across the board. The only thing right now that isn't selling or isn't selling well is a studio or a one-bedroom condo. And that's because people understand if I have to hunker down in this kind of dense urban setting where you've usually got studios and one bedrooms, I don't want to be in a small property because I can't really go out and use all the cool stuff that you find in downtown urban settings. That's not available during the Rona, is it? And I don't think it's going to be available till mid-2021. So what is the point of having to hunker down in a tiny little studio or one bedroom, a condo? And by tiny, I mean like 250, 300 square foot studio. So you've got no bedroom, just an open room with the bathroom. And then a one bedroom, call it 600 square feet, maybe 700 square feet on the bigger end of things, but they're usually more like 500, 600 square feet. They're small. So think the size of an oversized garage. That's what you're living in. And if you have more than one person in either a one bedroom or a studio, it's very difficult. You are on top of each other. And if you can't go out and enjoy all the amenities that your city or area has to offer like you normally would where these things are located, guess what's happening? You're sitting there going, oh, I need to get out of here. So all the buyers out there are going, we want at least a two bedroom. Doesn't matter what it is because now we are living in that thing. Our kids might be living in that thing with us. Oh, we got the dog. We're working at home, so we got to have at least one, if not two workstations. It's our gym because a lot of people are still not going to the gym. Talking with the gym owner last night at the gym I'm working out currently, and she is saying if you look around at the demographic in the gym, it's all young people. There are not a lot of old people, and she didn't know how old I am. And I told her, yeah, I am routinely the oldest person in here all the time. Look around. And she goes, oh, look at it. And I'm like, no, they're mid-40s. I'm going to be 52. And she was like, oh, if I get the Rona, I might die. But my point is at the gym, you just got young people. Old people are hunkered down at home. And if they're looking at a condo, guess what? They're not buying a studio and they're not buying a one bedroom, buying something a little bit bigger. So here is an exchange, and I'm looking at my phone for the email because that's just easier right now. Here is an example of what I kind of work with. And if I could get this thing to work, I'm just going to read this email. I'm going to kind of make this as anonymous as possible. Here's my client's offer for the Seattle suburban house. We've been looking since summer, and this is the perfect house for them. Included is also a letter from the buyers. That is a Dear Seller letter. Dear Seller, please accept our offer. We have 3 children. who are between the ages of 1, 3, and 6. My wife is pregnant. My husband is a doctor serving underprivileged kids in the inner city. I am a social worker. You get the gist. Just make it as heart-rendering as possible so that you get this house. That's what's going into Dear Seller's letters, because you've got to, on terms, you won't get a home a lot of the time. And that's what I think the record we have so far at Summit is one of our agents that has made an offer, and they've made an offer 12 different homes. I think that is the record. 4, 5, 6, 7 offers before a buyer gets one is not uncommon. And I got a lot of brokers right now who are on number like 5, and they're struggling. Their buyers are getting tired, and they're like, what do we have to do? Literally, what do we have to do to get a home? So this person added the Dear Seller letter. Dear Seller, please sell us your home. They're putting $500,000 down payment. So, and this is on, call it $1 million home. And this is not a particularly spectacular home. It's a home built in 1980, I believe. And it's suburban Seattle. It's not downtown by any means. Putting 50% down, half down, big down payment, and $200,000 in earnest money. So if these people default on this bad boy, the seller gets $200,000. Those are some strong terms. You would think the listing agent would be, yes, let's sell it to these people. Oh, also, there is no inspection. So no building inspection. These buyers are saying, we don't care what's in this home. We're going to take it. No inspection and an escalating clause, meaning you start out at the listing price. Say it's, I'm going to make this number up. Say it's $1 million, and then you're going to escalate up in increments of $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, whatever it takes to beat the next offer. Next offer is at, and then you cap out. And so the top number is, say this one starts at $1 million, listing price is $1 million, start off at $1 million, you escalate up in increments of, call it $5,000, and maybe your top number is $1.1 million, maybe it's $1.2 million. So you will go all the way up, you'll beat anything all the way up to that to get the home in increments of $5,000 up to a maximum price of $1.1 million or $1.2 million, and then you're out. Boom, we're done. Somebody escalates over that, they can have it. So an escalating clause. So they're basically writing a check way over list price. And in this one, it didn't go crazy over, but we've had stuff go to $250,000 over. This is what's happening in Seattle. People are thinking, oh my gosh, with Chop Chaz, all the ridiculousness there, your ridiculous politics, the real estate market has to be tanking. It's not. It's because you got a supply and demand problem. You still got a ton of people moving here because of employment. You got the whole tech thing going on. You got Amazon. And interest rates are historically low. So that's what you've got going on. All right. And so you would think after all that the seller and the seller's agent would be, sweet, let's just sell it to these people. Let's see what they say. They say, thank you for your offer. We are in a multiple offer situation. If you're in the top 2 positions, I'll be calling you to discuss. If not, you'll be getting an email from me informing you of our seller's decision by 5 p.m. today. That's what's going on. So they don't have to jump up and down. They don't even have to deal with a lot of buyers. They just got to deal with kind of the top 2 that escalate up to who knows what the price is. So we're seeing stuff go way over list price all day long. That's what's happening in Seattle. It's happening across the United States. That's where we're at. People continuously ask me that, hey, what's going on with your property values? They are skyrocketing. Not enough property is in the market for people to sell. My brokers included. I handle situations like that once or twice a day of brokers looking for advice on how they can get an offer accepted. And it all comes down to money, right? Show me the money. That's unfortunately what it is. It doesn't matter, if you give the right closing date. It doesn't matter if you have the biggest earnest money. If somebody else is paying an extra $100,000 over what you are, guess what? The seller's going to go, that $200,000 earnest money, that is amazing, and that's a big number for good faith. But I'm going to go with this other guy who's offering more money. Show me the money. That's what it comes down to. So that's what's going on with real estate, and that is going on across the country. It's where we're at with COVID and the election. City leaders are saying Seattle parks are spiraling into danger and chaos at a time when they're needed most. That's kind of my segue from the condos are not selling in a time where these parks are needed the most. So you live in a downtown area, you want to be able to enjoy the amenities around you, right? That's kind of part of it. You got a big park, like there's a big park, Denny Park in Seattle. It is a train wreck. That's where I'm talking about needles at the bottom of the slide. People are sitting on the end of the slide where it kind of goes down and then levels out. They're sitting on that, shooting up, dropping their needle on the ground. It's in a playground. Would you like to be a parent? Well, little Johnny, I'd love to have you go down the slide, but I don't want that hypodermic needle to go through your shoe into your foot. Don't want that happening. So we're going to have to move along. We're going to have to move along to the burbs. Got to go to the burbs. Tough times in Seattle. And so let's jump on into this and let's just see what's happening. We know city leadership isn't doing much. What is going on? Homeless encampments in Seattle parks is not a new issue, but it's one city residents say has gotten extraordinarily worse during the pandemic. Now community leaders are demanding city officials do something about it immediately. That reminds me of the peaceful protesters / violent rioters at CHOP who would have the defund police 50% now. Now our community leaders are saying, clean up our parks immediately. I couldn't agree with them more. It is crazy what's happened to Seattle with the homelessness issue. There's crap everywhere. It's dangerous. It's not a safe environment. Dogs used to run around in the park. I used to sunbathe and read a book. You can't do that anymore. So it's really sad, said Ballard resident 𝒂𝒕𝒍𝒆. Probably butchered that name as I do most last names. 𝒂𝒕𝒍𝒆 has lived across the street from Ballard Commons Park for 20 years. She said the city's navigation team used to come clean up the park once a week because it needed it once a week. What city do you need to have come and clean up the homeless encampments once a week? Can't we do something here? Clearly, I don't have a handle on this. But since it was eliminated, the navigation team was eliminated in the genius by the city council in their defunding of the police, nothing has been done about the growing homeless encampments now for, I think, over a month. If my timeline is off there, I did a podcast on that. You can check that out. I have no idea what it's titled, but I'm sure it was important, right? I feel bad because these are people also, but somebody needs to do something about it, said 𝒂𝒕𝒍𝒆. Part of the reason you have government is to make sure that cities are governed. You have zoning laws in place. I'm a real estate guy. Live and die by zoning. All right, the apartment complexes go over here. The residential homes go over here. The commercial stuff goes over here. And people who need help with homelessness, they go here. They don't go over here in the parks. That's not where they go. That's a no-go. That's an illegal use of city parks, having a bunch of homeless people there. That's my thing. I'm a real estate guy. So I draw a hard line on people living in the parks. Just going to take my tent, and I know this is a public park, and I know other people want to enjoy this park, but I'm just going to live here. And nobody's going to say anything or move me out or do anything about it. That is what's going on here in Seattle. It is a nightmare for the residents living around that and through that. I mean, can you imagine? Your kid looks out the window. Oh, I sure wish I could go to the park. No, you can't go there. It's not safe. Don't want you to get killed. Don't want you to get infected by a dirty hypodermic needle. Don't want you to step in human poop. Don't want that happening. That's what's going on with Seattle City Parks. And our leadership is kind of like, ooh, let's ignore this scenario until it gets really bad, till we're really forced to do something, because we're between a rock and a hard place here, because we don't really like doing stuff. I don't like taking responsibility for the city. That's what I feel is going on. I know there's talk about stuff happening. Like there's going to be $2 million put towards an 8-person outreach program that doesn't have cops. Good luck sweeping the homeless encampments with some social workers. Good luck to you on that. That's kind of my opinion. So I feel bad because these are people also, but somebody needs to do something about it, said Guarneri. This is a public safety hazard with parks and public places across the city becoming incredibly volatile. Yeah, this isn't even talking about the shootings and the violence and people being killed in the parks. We're not even talking about that. We're just talking about the cleanliness and the overall stuff that's in the parks, including tents, people sleeping there. Tim Gatos, the founder and chair of Friends of Denny Park, is one of many community leaders who signed a letter to Seattle City Council and Mayor Jenny Durkan about the current state of our city parks. Now, if you've ever watched Parks and Recreation, that's an amazing show. It's a very funny show. A lot of big-time actors kind of got their start there. Long-running show. They had the most ridiculous scenarios because they lived in a little town where everything was just it just ran along. They didn't have issues like this. But you've got community leaders saying, basically, can somebody come out and pick up the needles? Can somebody clear out all the tents around little Johnny's playground? Can somebody do something? Because we can't use our parks. Don't find that on Parks and Recreation, do you? Only in Seattle and Portland and Chicago and a bunch of other cities like that. Venice Beach. Oh, horrible. Crazy. So they've got CC'd a whole bunch of these companies. They've sent it to the mayor and all the council members. You know what kind of response they'll probably get? Yeah, we're working on it. We hope that in the future we're able to provide the citizens of Seattle a safer environment. In the meantime, we're reimagining, we're rethinking, we're reconsidering, and redoing nothing. All right. And I make fun, but that's kind of what's going on. A couple of weeks ago, parks put up signs to say playgrounds are now open because they'd been closed this whole time during COVID since March. And then they put up signs saying that they're now open, and they did that here at Denny Park, but they're completely unusable because we have dozens of needles in the playground at the bottoms of the slides. This guy just comes right out and says it. There's needles at the bottom of the slides. He said action needs to be taken for the well-being of everyone. It's become a public safety hazard for the folks in the park as well as the neighbors. With the navigation team being dismantled, there's really no tools in the toolbox to really help create a safe atmosphere here. That's really true. When I watched the video and he said that, there's no tools in the toolbox. You threw out the one tool that you used to have, which was the navigation team, which included police officers who would sweep through and clear out these encampments in parks. You tossed that one tool. You defunded the tool. You defunded it. It is no longer available. Are you coming up with a solution, a reasonable solution? I hope so. People in Seattle need it. As part of cutting down on Seattle Police Department's funding, Seattle City Council dismantled the department's navigation team this summer. Genius. Because, we didn't have a homeless problem back then. Oh, we did. It was becoming overwhelming, right? And it's just gotten worse. That team paired officers, it's just gotten worse, not worse. That team paired officers with outreach workers dealing with the city's homeless population. So what is the city doing about homeless outreach now that the navigation team is no more? On Monday, the city council passed a bill that puts over $2 million towards funding an 8-person unsheltered outreach and response team. Okay? Mayor Durkan's office said the city has taken the CDC's advice during the pandemic to not remove homeless encampments, unless because the CDC knows everything, right? They've really got a lock on this. Wear a mask, don't wear the mask. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Who knows? Who knows what those guys have going on? Unless it poses a severe safety hazard. I would say hypodermic needles in the park pose a safety hazard. I would hazard a guess that a lot of citizens would agree with me on that. So Mayor Durkan's office said the focus continues to be on helping them get into housing and shelters. How are we doing that? Without the navigation team, I don't think there's anybody going out, and they're not really helping them do anything. No members of the Seattle City Council talked to us for this story. Mayor Durkan's office said the passing of the bill is a big first step to forming a coordinated citywide response to homelessness. Well, something needs to happen. She is also hoping the city council will approve her pending proposal to open over 400 short-term shelter beds. All right, now we're talking. Let's get those beds rolling. Let's get that going. And then you got to convince all these people who are living on the streets, not even in the streets, right? They're living on the lawns of the park. You got to convince those people that they want to go into these shelters. Most of them don't want to because you can't be drunk, you can't be high, you can't sell stuff that funds your habit to be drunk and to be high. You got to be on the straight and narrow to be in a shelter. That's how it works. A lot of these folks, they don't want to. They talk about wanting to go into rehab. Not the case. The other half of the people, from what I've seen and what I've read, people with mental issues, and those folks need help. And right now we don't have an outreach. We don't have a navigation team to kind of help them out. We got nothing going on. We're talking about it. We're looking at doing the 8-man, $2 million deal. See what happens. I don't have a lot of faith in anything that Seattle says may or may not happen, may or may not be imagined. But I'm kind of cynical. I'm over here in Bellevue going, man, you guys are a train wreck. The rest of the country tunes in to my podcast because they want to see the train wreck that is Seattle. That's what we're doing. That's what we've got going on. That's it for me on this episode of the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will catch you guys on the next one. Bye for now. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you'll know when our next video is out.